campaign and turn it into about a $2 million ad campaign because he responded. But that's okay. I really like him. I mean, I think he's a great fellow. I think he's wrong in some of his policies, but he's pretty sure I am too. But we believe in competing, and so I'm trying not to look past 14, because if you don't get 14 right, if you don't get these governors in there, if you don't have this conversation, then 16 is just kind of more of the same. I just don't think economically more of the same is particularly good for this country. And so post 14, January 2015, I'm a private citizen again for the first time in 30 years. I never meant, I was gonna come down here, engage in public service for 3 or 4 terms, and then do whatever I was going to do. I didn't know exactly. And this just kind of happened. God's got a really great sense of humor.
We're glad He did.
Sure.
So on behalf of the Chamber, Austin Chamber, thanks for all you've done for economic development in the state. As you're leaving the stage in Texas, are you concerned about the support, Democrat and Republican, for the incentives that have really driven the growth here?
I'm really not now. It's kind of fascinating on both sides of the you got folks over on the Republican side that are like, by God, those businesses, if they want to come here, they're going to come here, and I get that, but that's not reality. Reality is that if you want to compete, then you're going to have incentives. It's just reality. And it's been that way, I'm pretty sure, since the apple in the garden. There was an incentive there, good and bad. So that's not going to go away. The other side of it is our friends on the left side of the aisle. They're like, they don't need that money. Let's put it over here into this particular place. And those are two legitimate conversations. But I think the folks in the middle understand that at the end of the day, what has happened in Texas in the last 12 years is pretty hard to argue with. And it's hard to argue that these incentives have not been as good a return on the investment as any money that's been spent. When you look at what are we, somebody that knows these numbers better than I do, I think we're about $450 million in total incentives, but it's like $20 billion of capital that's come, and and the Paul Krugmans of the world, they always want to get up and say, well, they were coming anyway, and come on, Paul, give it a break, man. We know why this works, and it's working. So I know that's a little bit of a long answer, but Abbott, and again, I used to be a Democrat, those of you that are Democrats, so I can say this. As a matter of fact, when I get to be 76 years old, which is 12 more years, I will have spent half of my life as a Republican and half of my life as a Democrat. So I may be still a little purple. and huge. But Texas is not going to become a blue state. And I don't even think it's going to become a purple state. And the reason that's not going to happen is because the economic principles that are being put in place are not going to change. And as the Hispanic voter becomes more economically upwardly mobile, and which has happened, we've had over 100% increase in Hispanic participation in our universities and colleges and institutions of higher learning. And as they become more affluent, they're going to, and actually there was a poll done like 2 weeks ago that a Hispanic in Texas is 19 percentage points, 19 percentage points more likely to vote Republican than they are a national Hispanic. So I just, I get over 40% of the Hispanic vote back in my elections. The theory that as there's going to be a lot of more Hispanics in Texas, which is correct, which is not bad. I mean, it's a good thing.
My name's Sarah Ponder. I work in education technology at EverFi. You haven't heard of it, but maybe soon. And I know you're also really passionate about making Texas education system the best in the country and the best in the world. What have you seen the role of technology and gaming in the education system? Like, have you seen any really cool stuff that has been happening, and where do you see it going?
Reasoning mind.
Yeah.
One of the, and this was 5 years ago. I mean, and here's the coolest thing I've seen just here lately with autism. And I'm telling you, there's some things going on, technology, because what they're figuring out is an autistic mind does not learn the way that a simple minded people. Literally, they may be at a different level intellectually. And so there's some programs that I just saw within the last 2 weeks that I sent to a brain center up in Dallas that's working with UTDs, or UTD guys who, and a private sector brain center that are studying studying how people learn. Mm-hmm. So the technology is going to completely change that. Not only for us understanding how they learn, but then implementing programs. And listen, I think the higher education model that we have in place today is probably doomed to failure because of the cost. And when you think about the bricks and mortar and the historic way that we teach, I think it has to change, and technology is going to be at the root of that. So again, it gets back to that old competition thing, and technology is competing with the historic way of teaching. It's very uncomfortable for those who are kind of set in their ways, and so it's a continuing struggle.
Yeah. What do you see Texas being really good at? And like, have you seen any programs that have been piloted in Texas in education technology that you think are just going to kind of change how we?
You know, some of the things that are happening at the universities, they're just not happening in a broad enough scale. My EDU. I mean, there's just a lot of and think about just in the last decade, I suggest wiring our rural communities where they have access in their public schools there to high-speed internet. I mean, that's a pretty new phenomenon, and so there's just a lot of. I'm excited about what all is going to be going on in the states, and I just hope the guys in Washington will kind of push it back and let the states compete, save a lot of money. I'm pretty sure. Matter of fact, I'm very comfortable that Jerry Brown knows how to better deliver health care to his citizens in California than Washington does. No, we do. I probably said that before. Chris, one more. You're the last one.
Thank you. Well,
so tell me what you do.
I'm an economist with Kings Isle Entertainment.
Cool.
So actually kind of talking on the same theme of education, you spoke about the long game in Texas appealing to our industry. One of the, I think, hurdles we have is that a lot of technical education has to happen for us to have a workforce. What do you see the role of Texas being in creating educated employees that have the skills that we can utilize?
Yes, sir. Well, let's talk fact here. Let's not talk theory. And the fact is that starting in 2003, we started putting accountability into our public schools. And let me back up and give you the National Assessment of Educational Progress, NAEP. That if there is a way to measure from Connecticut to California and all in between on how kids are doing on math and reading, that's it. There may be a better way, but it's kind of it's out there, it's been in place, it's a measurable standard. And in 1993, Texas was 27th, if my memory serves me correct. if number one was probably Connecticut, because they all pretty much look like me, and smarter than me. So, you know, they don't have a challenge like Texas does or California